Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. What's going on, guys? I got a very interesting story for you guys today. This was going to be short and sweet, but I really wanted to share it with you. Before we get into this is a very interesting story. I want to say this is nothing to do with politics, okay? This is just the interesting connections that people oftentimes find themselves embroiled in, all right? This has no bearing on anybody's character, any political candidate's character, nor am I telling this story and reading you these facts to in some way influence your vote, okay? On the Strategic Eyes show, we do not talk about politics. We don't do that here. We're true crime all the time, every time, and we're all about giving a voice to the voiceless. That is it. We're here to support victims and to figure out these crimes and to speak the truth. Now, I want to bring you guys in on this interesting article that really caught my attention that I think you guys might actually find interesting yourselves. So we're going to go ahead and bring this in over here. We're going over to Newsweek, where Donald Trump shared close connection to Black Swan husband killer. That's right, the Black Swan killer, of which we covered her story. We did highlights of her trial, backstory, the whole nine. So please go check that out. If you haven't seen it yet, go support that video. But this one is very interesting. And listen, I'm going to have a story at the end of this short presentation to show you how anybody can have a relationship or know of a very bad person. I have a personal story I'm going to share with you guys. So hang on to the end of the show so I can share it with you. But once again, this has no bearing with Donald Trump's character, whatever. You vote for whoever you want. I'm just covering this because it's true crime. That's it. True crime just happened to coincide and intersect with politics. So let's keep going. So in a twist worthy of a Hollywood thriller, the Black Swan, Ashley Benefield, who was convicted of manslaughter in her husband's death, and I think she should have got convicted of a higher crime than manslaughter, but I wasn't on the jury, so who am I? Once shared a close connection with former President Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, as you all should know, if you're from America, at least you should know, is the Republican candidate for president in 2024. All right, their paths crossed back in 2015 on Trump's campaign trail when the Florida ballerina met the then presidential candidate at an event. So this was before he was president. For months, the Black Swan husband killer attended the high-profile events at Mar-a-Lago and inched her way into Trump's inner circle. I mean, she's a very beautiful woman, and she's a ballerina, so she's trained in being elegant. And so I think it'd be easy for her to use her feminine traits and her elegance and the interesting thing that she does, which is being a ballerina. Everybody finds dance and being a ballerina something interesting, something you can have fun conversations about. So I can see how she can utilize those skills to like get into people's world or whatever. She certainly got into Doug's world. Now, as Benefield awaits her sentencing date after a jury deliberated for 6 hours to find her guilty of manslaughter, she will not be on the campaign trail with Trump this time around, who was also recently convicted in court. Okay. I mean, mind you, this is where I saw this on Newsweek. I am not interested in any article that's trying to sway your political beliefs. But this is the article that came to me in my inbox, so I'm sharing it with you guys. How the Black Swan and Trump met. Back in 2015, Benefield, then a dazzling ballerina, attended a campaign event where she met Trump. Both were starry-eyed and far from the shadows of felony convictions. There's a little bias in this, and I'm not saying this because I support either or candidate, but you can see that this writer wants to be a little salacious, but this is a real story. This did in fact happen, but you can see the biasness in the reporting. So if you were on the left or the right, just ignore it and just focus on the fact that this young lady knew Trump. Very interesting. Benefield captivated by Trump's charisma, found herself in his good graces. Trump, ever the charmer, was equally intrigued by Benefield's patriotism and her knowledge of firearms. He offered me a job on the spot, Benefield revealed to Vanity Fair, recalling the whirlwind moments that followed. From flying on Trump's plane, wow, she must have been really close to him if she got on a plane, to staying at Mar-a-Lago, same thing. I mean, Mar-a-Lago is a big place, and there's a lot of places for people to sleep. So that's one thing, but to go on the actual plane, which that means you're in the inner circle, okay? because that costs money. It costs money to fly somebody. Each person who's on that plane has to be accounted for, and fuel costs and food and all that stuff has to be accounted for as well. Benefield's life was a glamorous adventure. Her journal entries gushed about Trump's attentions, where he even asked her advice on tie colors and dubbed her his little girl. Fast forward to 2024, and the headlines paint a starkly different picture. Benefield's trial, dubbed the Black Swan murder trial after the psychological thriller Black Swan, concluded with a Florida jury finding her guilty of manslaughter and her husband, Doug Benefield's, death. Wow. So the dramatic court saga captivated the nation, much like Trump's hush money trial earlier this year. Benefield's fairy tale with Trump didn't translate into a White House job as promised. Instead, she met Doug Benefield at a political gathering at Ben Carson's home. So she was dealing with a lot of politically connected people. Even Doug was politically connected, apparently. And within 2 weeks, they were married together. They dreamed of revolutionizing the ballet world with the American National Ballet, but their lofty ambitions crumbled under financial and personal strain. Their ballet company, touted to be inclusive and groundbreaking, quickly descended into chaos, mismanagement, and broken promises led to dancers being paid in cash and then suddenly fired. Ashley Benefield, who distanced herself from the crumbling enterprise, disavowed her support publicly, igniting further drama. Behind closed doors, Ashley and Doug Benefield's marriage was as turbulent as their business. Ashley Benefield testified about enduring her husband's abuse, painting a picture of escalating violence that culminated in the fatal confrontation. There's something I said up here that was pretty interesting that I said, at least this happened. So it's a dancers being paid in cash and then suddenly fired. That sucks, but at least they got paid. Because there's a lot of times these crumbling businesses, they don't pay you at all. Sometimes it was as simple as him just yelling and screaming at me or cussing at me, calling me names, Ashley Benefield said during the trial. Other times he would throw things or break things or smash things. He would come at me like he was going to hit me. He told me he was lucky that he punched walls instead of me. On September 27, 2020, an argument over moving arrangements spiraled out of control. Doug Benefield's alleged aggression led his wife to retrieve a gun, ultimately shooting him in what she claimed was self-defense. I thought he was going to kill me, she said during testimony. The juror's manslaughter verdict now leaves Benefield facing 11 to 30 years in prison. Wow, that's a long time. She should get the max. Making a tragic end to the saga that began with such promise as she awaits sentencing. The once favorite ballerina and Trump's fleeting muse finds herself bound by a common thread of legal battles. All right, so we'll stop it there. Interesting stuff. I want to go ahead and tell you guys a personal story of how anybody can know a murderer. So, as you guys know, I grew up in Harlem. I'm not going to say any names out of respect for the victim, not necessarily out of respect for the perp. But growing up, you grow up around a lot of bad people. And one of the people that I grew up around was an older guy, so I never hung out with him because we weren't in the same age group. We'll call him Bad Baby. He has a real nickname. I'm not going to say that nickname because, once again, I don't want to identify anybody. In the inner cities and in poor communities, nicknames are as good as your real name. So you don't even want to use nicknames in some instances. So Bad Baby was a really bad drug dealer, bad guy, but he was nice to us young kids. And he would oftentimes always tell us to stay positive and do the right thing and stay in school. And he would actively say, don't be like me. Don't be like me. And he wasn't the only one. Other drug dealers would say, this is a different generation. They'd say, don't be like us. We doing what we think we need to do to survive. But you guys got a chance. You have an opportunity to stay in school and do positive things. And that was the message that those guys gave back in those days, which made us young folks not idolize them because they had nice cars and a lot of money. We didn't idolize them because they told us what we're doing is bad and we're going to end up in jail eventually. It's actually interesting that they would have these conversations with us, but they did. He was a very abusive guy though, and there were a number of people that he shot that I know of when I was growing up. Those people survived and they chose not to go to the police because of the codes of the streets and all that good stuff. That holds people back and serves no purpose but to destroy communities. But anyway, let's keep going. So one day, I'm older now, I'm an adult, I'm working in corrections at the time, and My sister is having her 21st birthday, and I'm like, you know what? She's like, hey, I want some liquor. I've never drunk before. I want some liquor for my birthday. I'm having friends over. We're gonna do it right. I am now a woman. I said, all right, no problem. I went to the liquor store to buy her some liquor, and I saw Bad Baby. And Bad Baby came up to me. He's super intoxicated. And he hugged me and he said, yo, man, I'm so proud of you. You in corrections, you doing big things. You've always been positive. You've always been a smart guy. And I know you have a family, because I had a family at the time. My family was very young at the time. I only had one child, I believe, at the time. And he said, yo, always put your family first. Always, love your family. Keep your family together. Stay positive. And I was like, yo, thanks, man. I appreciate that, Bad Baby. And it just seemed kind of weird. And then 2 days later, we find out that Bad Baby was arrested for killing his girlfriend. Now, I didn't speak about his girlfriend, and I'm going to speak about her now. I knew his girlfriend. Once again, she was much older than me, but we always looked up to her because she was so beautiful. And she actually was doing positive things. She was a nurse. But she was dealing with Bad Baby since she was young, and she got caught up. And he ended up having a kid. But rather than her play the typical drug dealer baby mama, she actually went to school, got her nursing degree, was working as a nurse, was a positive woman, had her own apartment, and was trying to distance herself from him, but they would get into domestic violence. He did not want to let her go. But she finally had enough and said, listen, it's over. I don't want to be with you anymore. And I believe the story is that, he came over to get the kid or something to that effect. And he ended up stabbing her to death and chopping her body up into small pieces, putting it into a barrel, taking it to the roof of a Bronx apartment building where she lived, and setting that barrel on fire in an attempt to get rid of the evidence. That's what Bad Baby did to her. He was caught shortly thereafter, after he had hugged me. And believe it or not too long later, but a few years later, guess who I saw in Greenhaven Correctional Facility if it wasn't Bad Baby himself in the flesh? I would say his institutional record was horrendous. He went to state prison swinging. Assaults on staff. Of course, he got his butt kicked because you don't play those games in the state. The state isn't like county jails. If you go after officers, they're going to come for you and you're going to pay. And that's the way it should be. I'm sorry, people may get offended, but if you're trying to hurt officers should be able to defend themselves. But he was a bad guy. And I think there was a time when I saw him in the hallway and, he said hi to me and I said hi to him. But at that point, we didn't need to have a conversation like, hey, know your place. You don't pretend like you don't want to know. At the time, I was an investigator anyway, for doing internal affairs. So you definitely didn't want to know me, because if you know me, you're a snitch. You're a snitch to the officers and you're a snitch to the inmates. You know what I'm saying? So he wasn't going to try and be like, hey, what's up, man? How's everything? At which point I'd say, go screw yourself, because you killed a girl that I really thought was a nice person. But, it was very interesting. And there was a time I believe I had to do interviews in the area that he was at. And of course, I made sure that they understood that I knew him from the outside and I could not interview him. So he was never called down to be interviewed by me. But very interesting story, very sad story, very tragic story. His daughter is being raised by his baby mama's family. His family's a mess. I could tell you all types of stories about that family and some of the funky things that they did in the community, but I'm not disrespectful, and people do change. And I'm pretty sure I haven't heard any stories about these people. And I know a lot of them are now no longer incarcerated, because most of them went to jail and they're living their lives. So I would not want to in any way impede them from their rehabilitation, but anybody can know somebody bad. And so, once again, this story that I read about Trump and the ballerina killer, the Black Swan killer, Ashley Benefield, is just a story of how people can meet people. It's once again, it's of no way should be construed as an indication of somebody's character, of Trump's character or anybody else's character who knew her or Ben Carson or anybody who knew her at that time when she operated in those circles. So definitely keep it respectful in the comment section. We don't want to turn our comment section into a political debate, You can do that with your families. You could do that with your coworkers and with your friends. This is not the place for the Strategic Eyes Show. We don't host that here. We don't do that anymore. We are all about giving a voice to the voiceless. And on that note, make sure you like and subscribe on the channel. Make sure you become a member of the show. We got lots of perks for the members. We do all kinds of shows almost daily for the members. So you're not getting that if you're not a member. You do get the show. Somebody said, oh, Strategic, are you doing a members only show? I'm out of here. You doing it? I said, what the hell are you talking about? Excuse my French, but people just be making things up. They just be imagining what they want to hear. Like, no, we're not a members only show. We're a show for everybody. But if you become a member, like every other show on YouTube, every single show on YouTube that is monetized has a membership program. If you're going to get extras. You're going to get extras that nobody else gets. Why are you going to get extras? Because you're paying for it. So if you don't want to pay for the membership, that's okay. We still appreciate you. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you put your notifications set to all so you can support us by watching our show. Absolutely. You don't have to be a member. But if you happen to decide to become a member, you will be paying a subscription fee to the Strategic Eyes Show, and you deserve extra content. You deserve to be treated special. Why? Because you're paying extra. So if you choose not to, we still love you. We still appreciate you. We're not shaming you. We're not forcing you to be a member, but you can't get mad when you don't get the extra stuff that the members get. And know that it's coming from my heart and it's coming from a good place. Anyway, guys, I'll see you on the next one. Strategic is out of here. Peace.